On live in like 2 seconds.
In 2 seconds. I mean, we're
Uh,
going to go lively. Bum,
Live. We're
bum,
going to be
bum.
lively on live. We are live. Welcome back to the Change Physician. I am Melissa Cady, the Challenge Doctor, with my co-host, Dr. Kevin Cuccaro, who's going to be very
Vigilantly.
actively trying to post in multiple locations.
That's right.
But of course, if you're seeing this on the Challenge Doctor, that is because we've cross-posted it, or I've cross-posted it from the Change Physician. If you don't know what that is all about, we have a podcast that releases 2 episodes every week, with or without guests, but there's at least two of us talking, sometimes three, sometimes four. But we go ahead and have a community that you can find and learn more about us at thechangephysician.com. You can actually join the community whether you're a physician or a physician ally. We'd love to have you there. You can always listen to our podcast at all the popular venues, including iTunes and Google Play. And did I miss anything, Kevin?
No, did you mention you can watch us on YouTube so you can see,
Oh, no, I did not. Why don't you fill them in?
well, you can go to the YouTube station too with the Changed Physician, which maybe is a little bit more interesting because then you can see our dynamic interplay here and you can see my amazing background changes because yes, I'm in the library right now, as well as Melissa's fabulous outfits like today where she has just been
My active look.
demonstrating the active look and
Yes.
all that cool stuff.
And headbands for frizzy hair that, you have to tame the curly hair. So it, I know you have to wear headbands a lot, Kevin. So.
I do. My hair, it gets super frizzy. In fact, it got so frizzy, I had to cut it all off.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah. Well, not really,
Oh,
but
likely story.
I
Yeah.
know. I did have some curls. I used to have curls, and I'm sure if I let it out, I would have them in the back like those scraggly dudes.
Oh, very, very interesting.
Yeah.
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 You'd have to search for the hair. Yeah. You could,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah. You have to be walking away to notice it's there. Well, for those of you listening, we like to touch on what's happened recently in the podcast. And of course, our upcoming episodes are a surprise. We've kind of changed our little flow and order here, but we will mention our last 2 episodes, which if you want me to mention them first, or do you want
Yeah.
to
Go
go
ahead.
ahead?
Go ahead.
So episode 104, believe it or not, we hit 100 episodes recently. But 104 is will your present still be your future? So this is based off of a quote. Of course, Kevin's great with having just a plethora of quotations that he shares. And so it's sometimes hard to fit in that whole quote into the actual title, but you can go to that episode where, many of us have this feeling like if we get something accomplished and get on to the next thing, I'll be happy, or the next thing and I'll be happy. And it's just like you're on this treadmill, it never stops. And many times your future is still kind of your present situation, or the same issues are still there. So we dive deep into that. Any comments on that?
Well, yeah, because I actually just read another little quote about the same thing like today, and I was like, oh my god, this is even more relevant. Because oftentimes what we will think about is the past, right? And that the past somehow makes our future, or not our future, but our present circumstances is really because of our past. And this quote put it, well, it wasn't a quote. It was somebody kind of mentioning the thing is actually it's your future that plans your present. And I was like, that makes a lot more sense if you're thinking about things in a much more preactive kind of fashion, because it's the things that you're going to do with the intention of changing the future that's actually going to influence your future present. So where you are now is a direct result of past decisions that you made when those were present sessions on a future circumstance. And I was like, that was great. In that little teeny frame, what that allows you to do is it adds a little bit more sense of control. That's one of the parts about that I like about this particular podcast and our discussions. It's all about little mind shifts and belief patterns and little teeny tweaks. And they almost sound silly in a lot of ways, but if you think of this perspective of what I'm doing now is actually going to influence my future present, because I'm going to make these things based on these future decisions, or at least planning towards that future action. That is so much better than kind of wallowing and looking, oh, why, because of this in my past, this is why I am where I am now. You can't do anything about the past, but we can certainly do things about the future. So that's a great episode. And I think it goes deep in many different ways, and you could talk about it forever, obviously.
Yeah. And that subtle shift in mindset it just seems so subtle can make the difference between you being the master of your future, controller of what happens, or what you dictate for the future, versus a victim.
No, absolutely.
Very
Totally agree.
subtle, but drastic. Well, the other episode is number 105, The Four Horsemen of Relationships. And do you want to spout out some of the horsemen?
Yeah, and that one comes out of the other things that we try to do with the Change Physician podcast here is we're going to talk about things, but they're also we like to make sure that there's data behind it. And there's a lot of relationship advice out there, and there's a lot of relationship gurus, whatever you may want to call it, where people maybe have set themselves up, but they don't really have any data to support it. And we want to be data driven. And so that episode came out from the research from John Gottman, who's a psychologist up in Seattle, pretty famous with his predictive. He has been able to predict a marriage's success or failure based on like a 30-minute interview on the interaction that the couple does in that interview style. Pretty interesting books. But he calls it these things called the Four Horsemen, and you can go in a little bit more depth on there. I'll tell you the biggest one out of all of them is contempt. And if you are starting to approach a relationship with contempt, where you are viewing the other as less than worthy of your opinions or of something that you want to hear, that's a huge danger sign. So, yeah, another great episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, and of course, on our Friday Faves, it's about the faves. And
Faves.
of course, part of it's inclusive of our recent episodes, or of course, our favorites too. But on a personal level, there's usually something that is our favorite, and on some weeks, multiple things. So, what was your favorite thing from this past week?
Well, one of my favorite things, because this was, it's weird. The more you kind of focus on what your favorite things are, the more and more of them you find. But I just got my Father's Day present today.
Oh, and
Which
happy
is
belated Father's Day.
happy belated Father's Day, which is, and I don't usually get, I'm pretty low key, but someone mentioned me griping and moaning about my electric razor because I bought a new one to replace an old one, and I bought the cheapo.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, it's electric, whatever. It shaves your face. Oh my God. You definitely bought what you paid for. I mean, this cheapo one, if I had to rate it, was like a 3
Yes.
because it did cut hair, but it would take like 15 minutes because you're just keeping it over and over again. So someone bought me, this is a super fancy one. This is a Bronze Series 9. And oh my God, this one like loves in your face. It's like a barber in your hand that just does that smooth shave, and you expect it to do the straight razor, and then it's applying the whole soft, warm, wet towel on your face to release the pores or whatever they do in the barber shop. So I'm enjoying that, and it was appreciative because obviously that was given to me by my family for Father's Day. So it's not only is it an awesome product, but it was an awesome people that gifted it to me. So that is one of my favorites. How about you?
Well, I just have to say that's so ironic because my dad's wall, WAHL, right? Razor, or not, what do you call it? Shaver, died. So I kind of knew about this. I got the heads up from mother, and we mailed him I think it's, oh gosh, Norelco. I think it's a Norelco. And it's a pretty nice, it's not the cheapest, not the most expensive, but a good, it seemed like a good model. So anyway, he has enjoyed it, and it's funny that you were mentioning that because that's what I got my own father. So I guess my favorite thing is Amazon 2-day shipping is so awesome because you can get it there in a jiffy. Let's see what else. The University of Texas at Austin is got their men's baseball team at the College World Series in Omaha, and they won a game. They have a game tonight. So that's good. I was planning on doing some pictures of some garden stuff that's growing and thriving, but I'll do that another time. But I still have one of my favorite things is just getting outside and having a little sunshine. Yeah, wine and sunshine sometimes, but
did you say wine and sunshine?
Wine and sunshine in my sunroom.
Oh, right.
So that's kind of a nice relaxation thing occasionally. But I've been working every day this week, so I haven't seen the sunroom as much as I'd like, but I'm looking forward to Monday. So one of my favorite things is I got a Monday coming up that's off. So I'll get to do whatever I want to do on that day. But keep it simple. Yeah, those are my favorite things so far.
No, I think those are pretty good favorite things. And I loved how you mentioned Amazon, because that was going to be one of mine too, actually, because I was
Yeah.
thinking about the same thing. I mean, so my son's on this trip. He graduated from high school, and we sent him out to the Midwest where his best friend lives. And there's a big bunch of them. It's kind of a fun thing. There's like 12 of these kids who
12 of these kids.
12 or 15. I think actually there's more like 15 of them, and they bonded over the whole COVID thing. Like they would be online. It
Wow.
was like a party was going on all the time.
Yeah,
And then they
yeah.
made this trip. And they're like, hey, we're all going to get together. And the big chunk of them live in Northwest Indiana area. So he's out there. And of course, he's 18 and he's running around with his friends. He wants to buy all this stuff. And I got to keep reminding him, you are in the land of sales taxes, my friend. So, he's like, I want to buy these clothes. Like, you could probably get them online. You could probably get them from Amazon. You can probably get them from home, and they wouldn't have to pay tax on them. So unless you're naked, you don't really need to do this.
Yeah.
And it made me think about how how much our lives have changed over the last 20 years for sure, but certainly with the last 10 years. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you're a Prime member, I'm a Prime member, and
Mm-hmm.
the ability to get this stuff so quickly. Now, there is good and bads about everything.
Yes.
And people get upset with Amazon and things, but if you look at the convenience and really at how it has changed the game, it's pronounced. I mean, you can get almost anything that you want, and certainly almost anything that you need within a really, really short time frame. Generally better prices. And again, I know people get upset about it, kind of maybe devastating small businesses, but my argument has been this also provides an opportunity for differentiation. If you're
Yeah.
just trying to produce and sell something, and that's your job, or I should say that's your business, you better differentiate, because there's going to be somebody who's better from that. And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of dislike it also when some of the small businesses are like, you should just buy from us because I'm local. Well, then I'm expecting something from you that I'm not going to get from Amazon, like
Yeah.
customer service. And
Yes.
our local area has been notorious for super crappy customer service,
Mm.
like
Yeah.
super bad. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you're not making
You,
me want to do this. But anyway, so I appreciate Amazon. I know that can be controversial in a lot of ways, but it certainly has an impact on, I think, all of our lives,
mm-hmm.
um, in many very, very positive ways. So, entertainment stuff,
Yeah.
access to new markets, other people who've kind of leveraged it, who are now able to sell their stuff from halfway across the world that perhaps they didn't be able to do that before. So
Right.
pretty
And
cool.
to think it all started, I think it was just selling books.
It was books, and
Yeah.
that's the super fascinating thing. Did it out of his garage, and it was initially books, and there was a reason he picked that. And I don't, if you kind of look at the dynamics of what Amazon's selling now, I would wager that books are by far not one of the major contributors. One of them I do know is this cloud service. The Amazon cloud service
Mm-hmm.
is a huge part of their market. In fact, Netflix uses their servers. I think Netflix started to build their own as well, but they were using Amazon's cloud servers for their hosting, because they're such a robust, whatever. I'm not super techie, so there's
Yeah.
whatever the magic cloud thing up in the air. And they have robust clouds as compared to skimpy little
Right.
clouds.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, they have to have certain levels of some of that kind of technology just to run their business. So you can imagine they can leverage that into the consumer to, be able to, benefit from that as well. But yes, I haven't checked to see how they've infiltrated infiltrated, but like Australia, New Zealand, it still can be tough, especially in New Zealand when it comes to importing and the cost of American type goods
Mm-hmm.
and the amount of variety. You know, the U.S. has some serious fundamental flaws to it, and we have some serious issues in our country, but there's an underbelly everywhere. But I can tell you the one thing that we are not deficient in is variety, accessibility, convenience. It is hands down one of the most convenient consumer societies you could ever ask for.
No, absolutely. And there's definitely pros and cons to that. But
Yes.
when you don't have it, you certainly notice it.
Yes.
And then I have a good friend of mine who I went through lots of school with, junior high on, who's an author, big reader, big writer, lives in Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
And they obviously has some problems, as an independent author. They have always have problems with Amazon.
Sure.
But what it allows them to do, or allows her to do, is to get American published books easily.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically through the Kindle kind of device in that kind of way. But
Right.
I mean, it's amazing. It's just amazing. Like
Yeah.
the access that we have to this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think there's more than just us that appreciate Amazon as much as we can give them stink about certain things if people want to. I don't want to spend my time doing that. I'm I'm very grateful for it. But in fact, I think they're working so hard, a lot of these drivers that I think I need to put a little thank you something on the front porch just to be like, you are appreciated
Yeah, that's a
because
good point, actually. That is a
yeah,
good point.
feel like you're appreciated because I think they're working so damn hard that I know it may not be the best, physically, to just be running around all the time, that monotony and lifting boxes and, I'm sure it can get old and stressful.
Yeah, you have to get a driver on just to get what their perspectives are. I
Yes.
mean, in the old days when it was UPS, my impression from them, and now I'm talking literally 25 years ago, was they were pretty happy. They were pretty good jobs at the time.
At the time, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know what the payment structure is. I know Amazon tends to pay above minimum wage. Um, they do have some weird stuff when it comes to production, like creepy stuff.
Hmm.
Like that is, with like the cameras watching you in production per hour. And now I'm going to say all this negative stuff about them. This idea that they actually want turnover because they don't want people working there too long.
Oh God.
Anyway, so let's stop there. So we'll just
Yes.
appreciate the goodness of Amazon and not go down into the dark corridors.
Yes. Let's look at the human side and thank your Amazon drivers or your other drivers of
Thank
all these.
your delivery drivers.
Exactly. So, well, why don't you take us out then?
All right. Well, hey folks, welcome back to another episode here. Thanks for this Friday Faves where you're joining us in our little discussions. I'm going to be talking to Melissa very shortly after off the air about some ideas. If you were interested in hearing those before they're released, you can put a comment in the comments here for the Facebook Live, and I will maybe send you a little message. But if you are interested in the actual episodes rather than just the discussions on Friday Faves, please go to thechangephysician.com and you can either sign up for the community there, whether you're a physician or physician ally, and or go to YouTube, as we mentioned before. You can watch this there and see Melissa's fantastic face and my bald head. Or you can listen to us via audio, because some of us have a face that works best with audio.
Oh my God, you're so wrong.
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Bye.